Welcome back to the channel and the second part of the translated disassembly of the brand new HAVAL H7. It's disassembled by the one and only Klubny Service Moscow, and we have our host Ilya here, who told us a lot about what he thinks about this new HAVAL H7, which is basically a second generation of HAVAL Big Dog as it's known in China. He has spoken to us about sound insulation, about general reinforcement of the body, what he thinks about the design. If you missed that video, now is your chance to check the linked video, which is the part 1 of this disassembly, because without any further ado, I'm about to jump straight into talking about the underbelly of this vehicle. How is it looking from underneath when they lift the vehicle up? So yes, once again, if you've missed out on the first video but are still interested in a rather serious, rather honest review of HAVAL H7, do yourself a favor and have a look at that part number 1 before we jump straight into part number 2.
This video is sponsored by our old friends AutoCast, creators of a whole lineup of products that are enabling wireless connectivity to your infotainment systems in your car, as long as those infotainment systems have wired Android Auto or wired Apple Carplay respectively. Connect your phone via Bluetooth and then, without connecting any wires, have access to Google Maps, podcasts, phone calls, whatever else, you name it. Watch some of the reviews of mine on Auto Gear Reviews, sister channel of Value Cars Australia, obviously, to find out more about AutoCast devices that we are very gladly promoting for a very long time. My wife is still using one. We are users of their devices. We are not just resellers of something like that. So thank you, AutoCast, for sponsoring this video.
Alright, so we're looking underneath this vehicle and starting with the exhaust system. So at the back of the car, so purely aesthetically, we have 2 exhaust pipes, which is obviously not required for this particular model, which is a 2-liter turbo petrol engine system. It certainly is not going to have enough exhaust fumes to need those 2 pipes, but they look nice, they are visually pleasing, and they make you feel a lot more high-powered than you really would be as an owner of HAVAL H7 in Russia. Suspension here is pretty simple, and in this particular case, simple always means more robust, easy to fix, easy to maintain. It's a good thing, really. Still underframe. There is no real frame in this vehicle, but there is like an underframe that fits a lot of these elements. It has independent multi-lever suspension fitted to it at the back. Lower lever is obviously larger, and it serves as the supporting beam for the amortization spring coil that points right at it from the top. And above it, we have another smaller lever that kind of holds it from the top. Frontal lever is tube-based, time-proven over many years and many vehicle models. There is also this longer lever that's placed lengthwise along the body of the vehicle, which once again is a very common way to feed these modules together across many similar vehicle models. It's clear that this is an all-wheel drive, and we can see the transfer case fitted to the underframe, fitted with bolts, and all of this looks rather safely placed according to Ilya. It's not for heavy off-roading, of course, but once again it looks quite respectable and capable for what it's worth. Transfer case is assembled together with some other modules. It's not fully independent, which is uncommon for, let's say, European models of off-road capable vehicles. But we have seen the way that they bind these knots together on some similar Chinese vehicles. This is a front-wheel drive car generally, but electronic brains and electronic systems detect skidding or some other abnormal wheel motion when this rear transfer case is going to be automatically engaged, and rotating momentum is going to be passed through and varied very cleverly by the onboard computer, as you would expect. The actual value of rotating force transferred from front to back varies dynamically, which is again very cool. We sort of take these things for granted, but really, come on, we live in the future practically when these things happen automatically without you having to worry about it. The car is auto-stabilizing itself in harsher road and weather conditions. Of course, we have the main drive shaft, which is visible here front and center. There is a double split fuel tank, which is interesting construction. Some standard anti-corrosion sprays being pointed out, but that's where Ilya sort of laughs at it, because obviously they do a much better job doing their aftermarket anti-corrosion spray application. Front suspension, moving slowly kind of towards the front of the vehicle, is made of lighter alloys rather than, say, cast iron elements, which is, no, I suppose not amazing, but not a point of failure either. Levers are closed. They're developed not in this thin, kind of fully exposed way, but there are two kind of almost levels to these levers. They are protected, as you can see. There is a lower part and there is a higher part. They're kind of stamped together and they connect both elements. Ilya says that supports themselves, the wheel supports can be dismantled, can be taken off, aka they are serviceable and replaceable, which means that no one is trying to force you into replacing the whole massive knot of modules, which is also expensive, if only one of them fails or requires service. That's good. It's a good design once again. Modularity is always good. Is there anything bad, you would ask me? Well, just these thin fitting elements of themselves, like how all this stuff is hung together, apparently is a bit thin. And while Ilya says it's all sort of good, kind of when we look at the elements themselves, but the way they're attached to the underframe is a little bit, he doesn't want to say flimsy, I suppose, and I don't want to use the word flimsy, but it looks like they could be a bit more solid from me understanding the undertones of this when I'm translating it for you. The bolts don't look designed to handle very heavy hits or heavy loads or pressure from the road imperfections. Nothing sensitive, however, is hanging below this underframe, which means that if there is anything, any bumps on the road, any stones, anything else that you're going to hit, you're going to hit probably the frame first, that underframe first, and the module would be protected effectively by that frame, which is good, which is great and sufficient, more than sufficient for a solid light off-roader. There is some confusion that Ilya expresses here on whether this is a 9-speed transmission, as the casing and the kind of the design of it is designed to handle that, to fit the 9-speed transmissions that he has seen in the past. Or is it an actual 7-speed that is formally stated in the documents supporting this Russian version release? Which is interesting, but again, not critical, especially if you're not buying this in Russia. Another transfer case is quickly pointed out, like an element that passes rotating momentum from the engine to the main driving shaft. We have two little shafts that are connecting the engine or the central elements to the front wheels, nothing too surprising. Brakes are also rather standard dual piston disc brakes, which is not something that, again, we probably would pause and think about too much. So generally, fairly good, fairly solid performance of the whole assembly of the underbelly. So let's summarize. Let's let Ilya summarize. That's original summary. He once again points out that Chinese car making has improved leaps and bounds, not just by putting in better multimedia screens and bling, as they used to, as they started with, but here we can see clearly better design of important elements that make a car a car. These are not borrowed anymore even, such as like them using Borg-Warner transfer cases before or ZF transmissions. A lot of what we see here, if not all of it, he's not pointing it out specifically, is homemade and owned Great Wall Motor technology. He swings hard here at the Russian homegrown automotive industry that has been taking taxpayers' money for many decades. To auto manufacturers such as AutoVAZ, for example. This is the one that makes Russian Ladas that you would have heard of, but maybe you're unfamiliar with the name of the plant. So he says it's astounding to see that we see this particular Chinese beacon of developing automotive technology, rapidly developing automotive technology, that costs about the same as some of those examples of what modern AutoVAZ tries to sell Russians in 2025. Like, aka, are they freaking nuts? How dare they charge them the same for the ancient, not particularly improved 1960s car making standards? They're trying to get the same money as they could basically spend on these China-made cars. So basically, there's a bit of a national pride going on here, which I absolutely understand as a Russian expat, I suppose, who's been out of the country for far too many years to mention. But it is really embarrassing, essentially, especially for someone who is a professional in automotive industry. They look at this every day and they probably shake their heads much harder than he actually expresses to us even here. So is HAVAL H7 a good car in his opinion? He says it very simply. He says if you're not allergic to Chinese cars, as he self-confessed to being allergic to, And if you're not a particularly massive dude who might not feel comfortable in their seats, specifically how they were testing HAVAL H9 not that long ago, where he made a specific point speaking about that, then yes, it's a good car. It definitely is worth taking a look at. And this is where I'm going to agree with him and wrap this up, my friends, because my own impressions from driving this H7, of course I didn't look under the bonnet, of course I didn't look under the vehicle itself, but I had the same feeling. I had the feeling that even from me owning HAVAL H6 a couple of years ago, this is a light years ahead. It's a vastly improved vehicle. They're improving exponentially, leaps and bounds all the time. And it looks like if I was buying a car in 2025, I probably would consider this very, very seriously, this HAVAL H7. Why not? Why not? So they definitely are improving, in my humble opinion. I think Ilya also has the same kind of resolution to his own review. But now is your turn. Did you take a look at HAVAL H7 closely yourself? First of all, do you like the design? Do you agree that this design is a lot more life-promoting and interesting as opposed to being something boring and an afterthought of something that causes no emotional response? Life is too short to not have an emotional response when you drive a vehicle or buy a brand new car with a brand new car smell. I still believe that. But do let me know if you agree with me. Would you buy HAVAL H7, especially after seeing how it's assembled as opposed to just me telling you about my early test drive impressions? Now we have a real specialist who confirms my earlier guess from just purely gut feel. Now he's shown us the real underbelly. And I do hope, as always, that you do enjoy my little videos. They are maybe not perfect, but nothing that's produced by a human in not lab conditions and not an AI bot that's auto-dubbing similar kind of probably car reviews or any other videos for you on YouTube these days. Nothing like that can be perfect, but I am trying my best, especially for the handful of you who still watch my videos. Please do give me a like if you haven't already. That's your best way of telling me that you still appreciate these videos. And I'll talk to you next time about something else value cars related in Australia and beyond. I wish you best of luck with all your endeavors, and goodbye for now.